for a Government of Tamil Nadu program, and they are discussing and not able to come out, and we decided, okay, we won't wait because we want to start on time at 6 o'clock. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, warm round of applause to our distinguished speakers for this evening. Come, Babu. Other Ramesh, Narayanan will be joining us any moment now. Yeah. Yes. Yes. What? Come on, take. Come on, Mr. Yeah. Ram, you can take us. Yeah. Yeah. I think there's some traffic and rain and all. A few more minutes. You're going to give time for the other distinguished speaker to join us. Before, let me tell you what's happening at MMA. And this place is very nice, for a small talk and all. Auditorium so huge, and you'll find, you get lost. Here is very nice, and even the speakers, even I feel very good because it's full house. That makes all the difference. Auditorium 300 plus seater, when you see some 75 people, it looks very empty. Now, let me tell you what's happening on 24th of December, online quiz, to commemorate the National Consumers Day. National Consumer Day is very, very important because as a consumer, you should know what your rights. What we have picked up some 15, 16 topics of occasions where we do a special quiz. The idea we did it on Constitution. Now, after we did the Constitution Day, there's so much of discussion happening in Parliament about Constitution. At least when you watch that debate, you will understand a little bit. That's the idea behind this is to kindle your thought process so that you get some insights on some important subjects. So next quiz is happening on 24th of December. Commemorate the National Consumer Rights Day. It's very, very important because most of you may not even know what your rights as a consumer. We got some phenomenal rights, and I can tell you, I think some of the reports which recently came, the consumer code is given really, really in favor of the consumer. So the seller really cannot take the consumer for a ride actually. So you should know your right, what to do. That's why we are bringing it. Then on 22nd of January, again, we have Read and Grow by Ram. Read and Grow, the subject is a lean startup, how constant innovation create radically successful business. So this is authored by Eric and is going to be there on 22nd of January. Again, we have a very important event on 27th of January. Nari Shakti, Indian woman takes center stage. The idea is we want to showcase some of the successful Indian women, how they achieved, and what is Nari Shakti, what does it mean. And we got some outstanding speaker again. We got Arundhati Bhattacharjee. Arundhati Bhattacharjee is former chairman of State Bank of India. Now she is looking after another very, very renowned organization. We got Mr. Kumar, we got Pooja Sharma, then we got Uma Ganesh and Ganesh Natarajan, founder of Zenza. We got a very, very high profile, then Anuksha, which is, Anuksha is the founder of Duck Hill Books, storyteller. The idea is we want to showcase what is the woman power and how woman makes the change difference and how the woman achieves. So we are getting some outstanding speakers. This is happening on 27th of January at MMA. Then on 31st, again, very, very interesting event, our Ponds Veterans Memorial Lecture, that is the endowment lecture in terms of Ponds V. Narayanan. This is very most sought after. The journey of leadership is what the subject we are going to be discussing. We got Atul Vora. Atul Vora is come from USA. He's come all the way for this event. He's a brand ambassador, ex-Solera and Dell and CIA, very Unilever, one of the most corporate achiever. He is going to be in conversation with Mr. Ramesh Srinivasan, senior partner of McKinsey and Company from USA. They are going to talk on the journey of leadership. The book written by 4 senior leaders in McKinsey. So this is what you are going to be discussing. I'm going to take another 1 minute more so that many people who are joining on. Then on 7th of Feb, we have a young managers competition. Please, those who are not filled up, give your name. It's really, really worth it. You not only take part, benchmark yourself, and you also bring laurels to your organization which you belong. And our annual convention is a flagship event. This is happening on, again, 12th of Feb, Wednesday at Torch Coromandel. Is a foundation for building a resilient India. We highly subsidize. I think it costs almost 6,000 rupees per person, of which MMA is highly subsidized this event for our members at, I think, 2,000 plus odd rupees. Whereas Taj alumni pay something only 800 for the food. So if you want, I think very limited seats are available. You can book it and join. And again, next book session reading is for the Feb also. We have finalized Read and Grow. Sangeeta will be doing that. And in between, we are also getting Rohit Sarin. Rohit Sarin is again financial wealth creator, and he has done quite a bit of work, and he's created wealth up to 50,000 crores is in his portfolio. So he's again very good. He's going to be coming here. So this is what is happening. And coming to today's topic, which is very, very relevant. It is very interesting. Which you all eagerly look forward. As much as I am also looking forward. Another Read and Grow series. Read and Grow series, why we do this is we always, every time I tell this, to be a great leader, you have to be a great reader. I've seen the people who are leading, Babu or other gentlemen who are supporting us, Ram and also Sangeeta, Sumesh. They're all voracious readers and they do a lot of research and pick up some lovely books. And you come and attend this event itself every month. You will learn a lot of things and your reading habit will come automatically. Let me also warmly welcome all the viewers watching the program live. As usual, if you have any questions, send it to the number. We will be having different background today because we are doing it in different locations in MMA. It's happening at Terrace Garden of MMA, third floor. It's a beautiful place. When you visit next time, you will come. Coming today's article, today's sub-book which we are discussing is Antifragile, Things That Gain from Disorder. And this is a book which is very, very popular, and we have got very outstanding panel to join us this evening. To lead the conversation, we have Babu Krishnamoorthy, is a Chief Sherpa, Financial Investments Pvt Ltd. Mr. Babu is here. Then Mr. Ramesh Narayanan is be joining us any moment. He is Chief Executive Officer of Adyar Anand Bhavan. He will be joining us any moment. And also we have Ramesh Krishnamurthy, President of Indium. Today, yes, we have got too many Ramesh, too many Krishnamurthys, too many Babus today. We are all same names, so we get confused. Who is Ramesh? Who is Babu? I was looking, I called him Ramesh from, I mean, that's different from Adyar Anand Bhavan. He said, no, I am not from Adyar Anand Bhavan, I am from Indium. He's coming. So it happens when you have a similar names. It's quite interesting. So I'll never forget Ramesh from Indium because I made this stupid mistake this evening. Once again, very warm welcome to you, sir. It's indeed a pleasure. Thank you, Babu, for putting it together week after week. And I think we are going to celebrate more than, I think, a couple of hundreds already been done. Let's do that. We are looking for a cause for celebration, occasion. Let's do that milestone and celebrate in a big way. All the three should be gone, together, and we pick up something very nice and launch it. Let's do that actually. Now, let me have the privilege of introducing the distinguished speakers for this evening. Can I have the AV, please?
Mr. Babu Krishnamoorthy, founder of Finsherpa Investments Pvt Ltd, is a chartered accountant with over 25 years of expertise in wealth management, catering to high net worth clients in India and abroad. Mr. Babu co-founded Pelican Wealth, worked with Allegro Capital, and authored the bestseller Unlock Secrets to a Wealthy Life. A passionate speaker on finance, an active Rotarian, and a past president of IFA Galaxy, Mr. Babu is dedicated to empowering investors and mutual fund distributors. Mr. Ramesh Narayanan, CEO of Adyar Ananda Bhavan, is a chartered accountant and entrepreneur with extensive experience across food services, healthcare, and technology. Mr. Ramesh Narayanan also serves as director of True RCM Pvt Ltd, co-founded freshly, and leads Vidhav Ventures LLP. With expertise in business development and operational efficiency, Mr. Ramesh Narayanan has been instrumental in driving growth and innovation across diverse industries. Mr. Ramesh Krishnamurthy, President of Indium, an AI-driven digital engineering company with 3,000 employees, has nearly 30 years of experience in the IT industry across entrepreneurial and senior management roles. At Indium, Mr. Ramesh Krishnamurthy oversees global operations, including infrastructure, HR, sustainability, and cybersecurity. A leader in AI and past president of Spin, Mr. Ramesh Krishnamurthy has also mentored IT SMEs through NASCOM initiatives.
Ladies and gentlemen, very warm round of applause of distinguished speakers. Our team uses the AI extensively now. Most of the things are done by ChatGPT, AI. It's become so simple for us to think of most automated. Today, the introduction of the speakers done by AI, Indian voice actually. You must have seen so much of all Americanized or British UK voice where you don't even know sometimes what he's talking. But we are trying to refine. Even AI also getting itself refined actually. It's good for us and use of it. Thanks once again. Very warm welcome to each one of you. Maybe a very warm round of applause to distinguished panel for this evening. And Ramesh will be joining us anymore. More to.
Good evening, Captain Vijay Kumar. MMA for this opportunity. It comes to me once in 3 months. I just want to correct something that Group Captain Vijay Kumar said. He said that all three of us are voracious readers. Yeah, that's true. But we're also forced to read because we have to do this program, right? So in some sense, we love this because it also forces us to read more. So that's also the truth. It's not just the other way around. So with that, thank you so much for the opportunity, and we just love. And of course, I get the opportunity of roping in 2 victims every time. And thanks to, I'm going to call him Krish, just for simplicity's sake during the evening, because there's Ramesh here. Maybe Krish is what we're going to kind of refer to, Ramesh, with your permission. So what we intend to do in the next, say, 45-50 minutes is to give you a quick rundown on what this book is. And one of the tenets that I use when we do a book review is not to give you a verbatim of the book, because we want you to go and buy the book and read it. So we won't give you secrets that the book contains by itself. But what we would attempt to do is look at the key aspects of the book through the journey of our own life and professional career, and hopefully come up with some interesting insights that's not found in the book, but that's unique to us. That said, I owe an explanation to everybody as to why this book was chosen, because that's also where it all starts. So, yes, the hero makes his appearance. Yes, Ramesh, welcome. Welcome. We're just getting started. So, we live in a world today where there are 2 wars simultaneously happening. The Russia war, and there is a war in the Middle East. There is a new president in the White House. There is innumerable number of things that are beyond our understanding or control. To put it mildly, it's chaos out there, right? Yet, we have to live life, we have to go on, and we have to make sure that we all prosper in whatever we attempt to do. So it's a huge challenge. And that's where this topic, this book title kind of caught my attention somewhere and said, I've never heard this word anti-fragile. All through school and college and growing up, we always come with this duality, right? Right, wrong, and there's opposites. So we always grew up with the idea that if there's something that is fragile, the opposite must be robust. And that's the whole way in which our thought process was. Until I read this book, I never knew that there could be a concept called anti-fragile. And that's where this whole concept is so energizing and interesting to me. But first, before I go, this is the 3rd book of Nassim Taleb that I'm reading. I've read 2 other books, very interesting author, you should read. He's actually a Lebanese American by nature. He's a mathematical statistician, mathematician. He's an options trader. Obviously, if you're good in mathematics, and you can play the bridge and you can be an options trader as well, but he's chosen to be an options trader. He's an author and a speaker and a teacher. So all this rolled into one is what Taleb is. Some breakthrough ideas. His first book was something that kind of was very interesting as well. Black Swan was his first book. And then Fooled by Randomness is another book that I have read, very interesting books. But Antifragile was a little bit different in its genre, but all the same very, very interesting. But I'm going to give you a quick start. I have two important guests here. I want to kind of grab their knowledge as well. But I'm going to introduce the way Taleb introduces the concept of anti-fragile is very interesting. He says, all along we know, like the duality, right? But he says it's actually a trilogy. There are three aspects to it, right? There is one which is fragile, the other is robust, and robust is not the other extreme. He says it's a middle, and then you have anti-fragile. And his explanation is fragile is something that collapses or kind of breaks down on a random event happening. If there is some uncertainty or some event, adverse event, it collapses quite easily. Like a glass, we can imagine a glass that kind of collapses. Robust is something that does not have that trait. It does not get diminished or destroyed immediately. It holds on. It has the power to kind of continue to retain its character. That's what robust is. But he talks about the third, which is, can uncertainty, can adverse events kind of empower something to grow bigger? Can things go better in uncertainty is really the question. Can we assimilate our organization, our body, our mind to get into a frame where uncertainty or events that are far beyond our comprehension, when they happen, we are actually going to benefit out of it? How do we kind of prepare is where the whole story is. And he narrates n number of examples. One example that I think is kind of worthy, in which I could relate to myself, is when COVID kind of event happens, some of the people who are in the corporate ladder at the highest level of salary bucket, and if you're typically a manufacturing company that's going through difficult times, then these are people who will find it very difficult to stay on, because their cost to their enterprise is reasonably high and there's no production. So they are really, in that sense, from a vocation perspective, they are very fragile. But if you take a example of a taxi driver, right? He does not depend on one person for his money. In a day, he'd probably do 20 trips, right? So he is a lot more robust as a profession from that perspective. But really, if you look at people who are making their business out of the internet, maybe a YouTuber in today's parlance, has actually been benefited because of COVID, because everybody moved from a significantly face-to-face environment to an online environment at that time. And people who were doing really ordinary stuff, weren't doing great financially at that time, really benefited out of something like a COVID. So he says, in every situation you will be able to find people who are fragile, robust and things. Not just people, activities, organizations, processes, every aspect that you look around can get kind of categorized in this form. So it's a very interesting book from that perspective. It gives us a whole lot of scenarios he talks about. And, I can go on. Like I said, I love the mic, but I'm going to pause here. I'm going to get Krish to kind of talk about what are his initial thoughts about the book and some of the ideas that appeal to him most, and if there are stories from his side which he can share with us. Over to you, Krish.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Babu, for introducing me to this wonderful book, and thank you, MMA, for this opportunity to share and from the read and then share the life experiences, right? And I have a unique, I don't know whether it's a randomness of, because after reading this book, I'm looking at everything as random, right? And my name, I shared first name with one person and the second name with other person, right? So, though there's a little bit spelling here and there, but then, the book has been, you rightly said, Babu. I think I read a lot of books, and I have a problem that I don't go to, my wife stops me if I just get into any airport and all, get into a book. So I was, no, don't go, because the moment I go, I'll get 2 or 3 books eventually. And I have this habit of reading 2 books at the same time, okay, and 2 movies at the same time, obviously in OTT or something. But always it has been a pleasure, but this was pressure. We had to read that book and be ready for this, but then it was a wonderful book, and for me it was a complete eye-opener from several aspects. One is that the concept itself, like Antifragile, for me it was first time I was getting introduced to the phrase Antifragile. Right from childhood, our parents will say, don't touch this, don't touch that. I mean, we are always guarded, and that's how we are, be it personal lives or we are professional lives, right? That's how we are grow up and act on that. So from that point of view, we always also at the same time see that there are adversaries that happen, and whenever there is a crash, stock market crash, and not that everything is lost, and that's where the new companies and all, we know that 2008, I don't want to name the companies, so these 10 companies who are top now were not there in 2008 or before, we all know that. So some companies do that. For me, that concept itself, never thought this from that angle. So this book actually forced me to see it from that angle. And one particular sentence, I was reading it, it basically summed up the entire book for me. It said that a wind blows out the candle, but energizes the fire. Okay, so the wind is there all the time. You can't stop it. So I see that as you can see that as an adversary, or you can see that as an opportunity knocking you. You need to choose whether you want to be a candle or you want to be the fire. Okay, and I think that's where Taleb goes through the entire book, giving several examples, many very relatable in our own personal lives and our professional lives. Before I hand over for the next round, because Babu spoke about COVID. COVID is a wonderful experience, once in a lifetime experience, right? It happens, and how do you plan for it? Do you really can plan for it, right? And things like that. So I will share some professional at least experience. So about a couple of weeks before COVID happened, so we all knew that what was happening. I mean, couple of weeks before the lockdown happened, in India, we already know what was happening and things like that. So little bit of wisdom we had in terms of how do we prepare our teams and things like that. We started making people working from remote. And believe me, it was not easy, because I don't know how you all will know. The one thing that changed in IT before and post COVID is that before COVID, majority of the IT companies had something called as desktop computers. Okay, we would have forgotten desktop computers after COVID, because all have become laptops now, right? So we had so many desktops which you need to ship to their locations, remote locations and things like that. So we planned that for a 2 week, and we were not planning for the what we call the lockdown and COVID. We were planning for what we call it as a BCP. We had how business continuity plan, or 2 days, 3 days, something happens. Then what happened? This COVID happened, and then as a result, we were already had all the computers in individually everybody's homes, and they started working. 1 week, 2 weeks, people enjoyed not working and things like that, figuring out what is going to happen. Office is going to work, not work, and things like that. After that, people slowly started working, and the first people who came knocking the door in my company, you know who? Customers. Business has to run, cannot stop. Okay, and I can tell you that during that 1.5 to 2 years, one particular division grew literally astronomically, because we were ready. And they came with We never hired 100 people. We were hiring about maybe maximum 40, 50 at a time. 100, can you hire? First time we are doing everything first time. Hiring remote, interview remote, assessment remote, onboarding remote, everything, right? Kind of thing. So that helped. And with this particular company, the reason I'm saying this customer is that we were always number 2 as a vendor. And this actually made us the number 1. Primarily on a factor that we are flexible, we can, work on that and things like that. Second to it, as Babu mentioned earlier, lot of uncertainty that is happening on the geopolitical side. Again, 2 years back, one company gave about a order worth of, because it's an IT company, right? But order, we don't talk in terms of rupees revenue, it also headcount, because it's a services company, right? 75 member team. Just transitioning from one vendor in Ukraine to us. Okay. So we benefited. What I'm saying that there were things that were happening and how you can be ready and things like that. So there's more to share, but then I will stop here.
Yes. Let's get the model looking Ramesh here. So, Ramesh, we just started. So your initial thoughts on the book, and I must share, when I love the title, but the denseness of the book I got to know only later, after I was going to read. And I really felt bad for both these guys, because out of favor they agreed to read, and then you look at the book, it's kind of really, Taleb is such an academician. Everything is referenced to an index and so on and so forth. So thank you, Ramesh, for kind of.
Thank you, Babu, for pulling me into this and pulling my leg as well for coming late. So thank you, Ramesh Krishnamurthy, for sharing the dais with me, and thank you, MMA, for inviting us for such a wonderful opportunity. So first, about this book, when Babu, actually, we were talking about in the last 9 months, we were trying to connect together for this one. The first time we wanted to connect, it happened to my son's birthday, so I said I can't come because I promised him to take him out. So the next time I was traveling, and then this time I made the point that I just cancelled everything, whatever it is, I have to be here. So, but the book, what he gave, actually, I thought I should have taken the other 2 options what he had given. It's a heavy book, for the matter. So what I did was, I'm just going to straight away go into my learnings, which I can share, because, so when I normally read a book, I make some markings, but this book I had to jot down points because I couldn't go back to the same page. So there were a few situations where I could relate to what he was mentioning about being fragile, robust and anti-fragile. He summed up pretty nicely. So I'm going to pull up 3 situations of being a fragile, robust and anti-fragile, which is actually will help people to think in that way, because what this book will do to you is subconsciously it might make you think in a different direction, which you have not thought that way when you encounter a situation. I think so the heaviness of the book will actually, that's why maybe he has done it so heavily, because it would subconsciously move you to think in that kind of a direction where how you can make the best out of the bad situation, or how you cannot be fragile though you think you are. So the first point what I looked into was, when you think that you have already figured out everything, and that's where you should actually introspect. So the point at which you say that, okay, I have figured out everything, and that's a kind of a fragile environment, what he says. And that's where, though the best part is you go and get conscious. I think so I'm good without a mic. Actually.
No, there is an audience online.
Yeah. Right, okay. So check. So when you think you have already figured out a business plan or an action plan, and you think that is complete, and that's where this book will make you think, have I figured it out all? Is there any scenarios which I have not? So there were one scenario, it was pre-COVID. So we never, I'm not going to talk about this fragile thing is pre-COVID basically. So I was presenting my project to the Railway Minister, Mr. Suresh Prabhu. And we also know that Mr. Narendra Modi is going to be there for the event. So we had to carry our whole vending machine. I mean, that's what we created. We had applied for a patent then. So this has to work in that particular scenario in a hall in Haryana. So we had to take all the way from Chennai to Haryana in a truck. And actually, we were a startup, so we didn't have that much of funds. So somewhere I had to drive down, somewhere I had to be in the truck and then ensure that things are okay, because it's a sensitive equipment and it has got a lot of sensors around. So even if somebody handles it in the wrong way, if it doesn't work at the time when I have to click a button, it has to work. So we were so cautious about, and at the time when I was able to read this book, at that time say how fragile we were in that scenario. Like if anything could have brought us down to zero. So, and that time when I had read that book by then, we would have had a different perspective of how this can be done, how we could have fixed things, and because we were going in a single perspective, but this book will make you think in 3 different angles. I mean, that's whether you are in a fragile moment, or you robust there, or you have to get anti-fragile, which is anti-fragile is something which I'm going to tell maybe during the course of the conversation. So this I will stop with the fragile environment. We finally got the mission to Haryana. And this was a railway innovation meet. Basically, what new innovations can come into Indian Railways. So there were many signal processing, there were many rakes which were coming, and we were selected based on the food and beverage, what innovation we could do, because in railway the food was not safe. So we had come up with a machine which can actually bring food untouched from the kitchen to the consumer. There is nobody touching the food. So that was where we got selected. But when we got the machine there, and finally we were presenting it to Mr. Modi, and I actually bought a dokla because we found out that he likes dokla. So we had actually figured it into the machine, and we made him do the order. And finally the sensor didn't work. So he actually was very appreciative of it. I mean, at the moment he had to stop for 10 seconds because holding him there for 10 seconds because there were so many other things happening after that. So, and then the moment he left afterwards, and then we had to just check a query, and then that sensor worked, and then the food just dropped out. And I didn't hesitate. I mean, I just took it out and they said, this what come out, you want to try? And he laughed it and then said, okay, fine, you move on. So in terms of being fragile in an environment, and that where I was able to relate how, in my real scenario, how fragile we were, and how we didn't think about getting into an anti-fragile mode or being a robust there because we were startups. But with this book, I mean, any people who want to venture out or anything, this mindset, I mean, leave out the heaviness of this book or even the kind of references where you will just get into some stoicism in philosophy or getting into multiple tangents he has pulled you into the book, where it will look like you are going into a different multiverse. I mean, that is the kind of way he has written the book. So that is something I would relate to, and being fragile is no more after you read this book, because you have to get conscious with this book, whether I am fragile there and what you need to do to get better of the situation. So that I will stop with the fragile, then maybe I'll come back.
Thank you. Thank you, Ramesh. You know, this book also talks about moving from fragile to anti-fragile, and from anti-fragile to fragile as well. And one of the things I could relate was a concept that he talks about as naive intervention. And I remember very distinctly that I have a friend from college, and every year, you know, the people who have migrated to US find a reason to come back to Chennai in December because it's the Kacheri season, right? So most of them land up here. And every December, the moment he lands up, for 2-3 days, the man will be in bed because some virus or the other will catch up to him, right? So I was I was reading a nice thing that guy had said, that anti-fragility is that when you don't take medicines, when you are not always in a very secure environment and you allow your body to interact with the other elements around so that it builds immunity in you. That's anti-fragility. Whereas as humans, we are born with anti-fragility. Our body is meant to fight germs, fight most of the things that are around us. Whereas he says most people or parents, young mothers for their children, they do an overdose of antiseptic or all those problems, which makes the child fragile. You know, the child will tend to fall sick more often because of any exposure, as compared to allowing the child to go through a period where it on its own develops its kind of immunity. So he talks about the same thing, right? So what Ramesh, Krish was referring to, the global financial crisis in the US, 2008. The best thing America could have done at that point in time is, I mean, it's easier said than done, but to allow a certain financial system that didn't do really good to collapse and then for a new order to come up. What they ended up doing is that they ended up subsidizing it, which makes the economy even more fragile. If you look at economists today, there will be equally divided between two sides. One side saying America is doing really well economically. The other side saying America is precariously poised at the end of a cliff from which, because their external debt is some $38 trillion, you know, it's kind of mind-boggling amount of debt that they're sitting on. And it started at 2008 onwards trying to get the economy to revive. So there are lots of ways in which in our daily life we make anti-fragile things more fragile. Economy is one such thing, health is another such thing. So there are lots of things, and this he terms it as naive interventions. And when I read this whole concept, I could recollect in my mind all these elements wherever, you know, we could observe these. Trying to do good and achieving exactly the opposite effect is what, and you could relate it to a lot of my own personal experiences, I thought. Is there something like that that you could relate to, Krish?
100%. I think, so one of the other thing that, taking the same thing that Babu that you mentioned, you know, Taleb mentioned somewhere in the book that when men fight or lose the last war, the nature will fight its next. Okay. Quite wonderfully said, and as Babu said, you know, nature finds itself, you know, the nature, the how it is made and things like that. I'll just recall a book that I was reading, a very, very wonderful book called as The Brain That Changes Itself. So very, very wonderful book on how the brain works. And I could relate that to one concept that first time I read in this book. It's called as iatrogenics, okay, which is like, I was finding what is this? It's basically like it is induced problem by someone who is trying to help you, okay. Most of the time he is explaining that with some medical thing, right? You go to a doctor, you are not okay, then you are given some medicine, and then because of that medicine you have a side effects and things like that, right? You know, I could relate that in my personal life, okay. My mother started complaining. She was at that time maybe 76. Now she is 84. She started complaining that she's not able to see from the right eye for about couple of seconds, and we just ignored. I said, okay, it's all okay, no problem. And then next day she said, you know, it has become more frequent in the sense every 15 minutes, half an hour, it is happening like that. Unlike me and others, you know, those generation, they're very particular about, they note the time and intervals, right? So then we took little serious and said, how long? He said, no, 1 second, 2 second, I'm being, so we go to bathroom, restroom, and becomes suddenly blind. What do I do? She has got the fear. We took her to the doctor. Obviously, the first doctor we take is basically an eye specialist. The eye specialist checked it and said, it's perfectly fine, no problem. And then we came back and said, no, it's old age, you don't worry, you are all okay. Doctor has said, okay, you are okay. And she said, okay, contented with that. And the doctor said, I should be okay. Came back, and after next day again, it started more frequent, and from a 2 seconds to it became 4 seconds. 4 to 5 seconds. And 4 to 5 seconds at that age is quite, I mean, you're really literally blind by that, right? Then we thought that we should take to somebody suggested by you to take to a neurosurgeon. So we took to a neurosurgeon, and then they took the scan, and in MMM, they said that, okay, we need to do a scan and they need to check and find out what is the block level. And the block was 100%. And the doctor said that if it is 100%, I can't do anything. I can't put a stent. If it is even as 90%, we'll put a stent. The story of that is that they found it's 100%. We are all praying that, it should not be 100%. And the result came, it was 100% block. So we went with the doctor. Doctor said, no worries. Very nice doctor. Wrote some 2 or 3 medicines. Take it for 3 months and come back and see. My mother asked, if I take it, it will be okay. Okay, no problem. It will be okay. She, as the religiously, not missed 1 tablet. All the 3 tablets, eating day and evening and all. After 2 months, after the 1 month, she was slightly better. After 2 months, the thing was gone. And we went to the doctor to take the appointment, and the doctor said, looked at it, and I also was there and looked at it and said, it's fine. Okay. She's all fine. God is kind. Amma ninga seri aitinga. I hope everybody understand Tamil. So, Amma ninga seri aitinga. That is, you're gone 100% right. So, nothing to worry. வீட்டுக்கு போயிடுங்க. கடவுள் தான் இது சொல்லணும். நீங்க தான் கடவுள்னா நீங்க தான் கடவுள், நீங்க தான் சரி பண்ணிருக்கீங்க. சரி, we came. The interaction was like 2 minutes. And it was one of the doctor where you will not get appointment easily. 2 months it takes. A lot of people standing outside, we came out. Something was not okay with me. It was 100% block. You gave some medicine. It's 100% right. You're saying it's cured. Then what happened? I went inside. Secretary said, you can't go inside. Several people. I forced myself, went inside. Doctor, can you please explain me? How, your medicine or what? Is it really you want to understand? Made me to sit down and took a white sheet and explained. That's the nature we are talking. That the brain, the connection from the nerve, from the eye to the brain, the signal was not going. The other the left side, the nerve that goes, it senses and travels all the way and supports it. Then I said, doctor, but your medicine also. And then he laughed and said, do you know what medicines I gave? Only to give your mother a psychological thing. It's only small medicine and blood thinner kind of thing. My medicine has not cured. And if I had given any medicine, you would have gone worse. Excellent example of iatrogenics. So that's one thing I thought I should share.
Yes, Ramesh. Something about this book, some topic that resonated very deeply with you from your own personal experience.
Okay, so here I'm going to share something which is we tried to help and which things have gone wrong, which is iatrogenics philosophy. So there was a client of mine. I mean, I had a BPO and I still have it. I mean, it's a healthcare, US healthcare BPO. So we serve US clients on their revenue cycle management. So the process of how it works is the US insurance system is pretty different. I mean, there is no upfront payment from anybody, so you just have to flag your insurance card and then you go get treated, and then all the back end is done by the hospital, and there is a lot of Indian companies do that back end work. So we were serving one of the clients, and there were some denials. So we were trying to identify the denial reasons, why that particular hospital is getting so much of claims either reduced or denied. I mean, so we were trying to help them. I mean, that's where we wanted to say, fine, why you should have got more. And then when we did the analysis, we did some amount of Excel automation there. I mean, during that time, we didn't have the the Python or the PyTorch or even R for that matter. So it was in 2012. So right on the year where this book was written. So we were trying to decipher the denial reasons, and what we figured out after submitting the report, which became a record, is that they were overcharging. So but the client didn't reveal to us that they were overcharging. And there is a Medicare audit which was done by the Obamacare during that time. So Obamacare was a revolution in itself, because he was trying to bring the ICD, I mean, what they call it as International Classification of Diseases, right? All the diseases get classified into a code. It was there from last 30 years. I mean, and it's a 10th version which is running right now, ICD-10. So what he was trying to do is get all the codes classified, human diseases, whatever possible. I mean, it's all, there is about 123,000 codes, where any symptom of a man or a woman or even the other kind can get classified into that particular code. So Obamacare did some risk estimation, and they estimated this could be the payout for these kind of codes. I mean, what has happened? So that had actually, there was an audit triggered by the Obamacare on hospitals who were overcharging. So, but we were trying to help them on trying to improve their collections, but later figure out that data had become actually kind of known to people that these people were overcharging. I mean, so that's something which we actually went in to help, but it went the other way around. But eventually, I mean, they had their own reasons, because that time the regulation was coming. I mean, they didn't got into any legal tussle or not, but it throws a light that practice should be avoided. They shouldn't do that kind of a practice, which is, again, they think it is a robust. I mean, I can just relate to the robust example as well, because the healthcare units in the US, they think they are extremely robust. I mean, nobody can actually touch them, or they are covered on all angles. But when an event which is beyond happens, I mean, that robustness goes for a toss, and they have to get anti-fragile, like how to get out of the situation and get better. And that's what they have done. I mean, these healthcare companies or the institutions have now come up with a process called hierarchical coding, which they have identified a cluster of hospitals which agree together and say, okay, for these kind of codes, I will charge only this. So now, after this particular scenario, they have become anti-fragile, that they have made a cluster of people who will go in a certain way, which even the Obamacare or the federal can actually have to agree with it, because it is a cluster who is coming and saying that this is what is ideal. I mean, this is what the cost of it. And now that has become a trend right now. I mean, now there's many clusters happening in the US where people have been charging beyond what they need to charge, and they now come into a kind of a anti-fragile environment. Yeah, they're kind of a cartel, but a very sensible cartel, because now everything is open. I mean, people can actually understand what it is and how much other people charges. And now when 30 hospitals try to agree together that, okay, fine, we will, for this kind of a treatment, let's say, we will agree to this kind of a charges. So that's something, I mean, iatrogenics to, I mean, moving to being in a robust situation or getting into an anti-fragile. I mean, this book has made us think in this direction. I know how long I'm going to think like this.
All for the right reason, I hope. You know, just taking off from there, you know, a couple of these topics when I read in the book really kind of blew my mind. One such thing was what is called the Lindy effect, and he talks about extensively. The Lindy effect is nothing but he distinguishes between living and non-living. In living thing, anti-fragility starts losing effect as the process ages. So take the example of a human. As you get old, there is your health falls or deteriorates, and over a period of time, there is a risk of you dying. There's a 100-year human life cycle, right? So in living things, in most living things, you have anti-fragility starts kind of diminishing as you age. But he says it's inverse in case of non-living things. He says there's a good chance that a company that has existed for 50 years is most likely to exist for another 50 years. And his rationale is that over the past 50 years, if that company has endured change, difficulty, overcome all of it, and has succeeded, it's most likely to succeed in the next 50 years as well. So this differentiation between living and non-living, and the way fragility and anti-fragility gets kind of defined, was very interesting to me. I had never looked at things in this form or fashion. I thought it was very interesting that the more time period something which is non-living that has existed, the longer it is expected to exist further as well. So that was a kind of a aha moment for me, in the sense, I read that and I sat about 10 minutes thinking about all the scenarios that I've been through and kind of trying to validate it in my mind, and I thought it's a fantastic. Any thoughts on Lindy and any other things of similar nature? Krish?
First, wishing you first 50 years for you and all of us here. I mean, I think we may not survive 50 years or 100 years, but I think the great companies are born that way, and I think a lot of this thing. It does make a lot of sense to do that. Looking at basically when we started, we were talking about planning for the fragility, or do you actually plan it for the anti-fragile things, right? If I may be allowed to, one particular Kabir Das, I don't know if you read him in school. Okay, there is a Hindi thing. I will explain that. I mean, I did my schooling in North. Yeah, that's right. So one thing was Kabir Das, he said, "Nindak niyare rakhiye angan kuti chabai, bin pani sabun bina nirmal kare subhai." So what it means is that people who thrashes you, or you need to keep those people near you, so that because they tell you all the wrong things or bad things about you, and you can plan it. Okay, so Taleb has written this. Kabir has written. I don't know when it was, right. So from that standpoint of view, I can relate that. And many of us would be, who are your closest friend? Okay, we have a lot of close friends. Okay, and those close friends, if you look at it, they will not allow, they will protect us. Do you all agree that our close friends always protect us? Okay, and that's the challenge. That I see as a challenge, because your friends always try to protect you. Okay, and you are never going to be vulnerable when your friends are around. Okay, so it's a good thing, it's a bad thing. Okay, I again take an example of that to in our own corporate world. Today we are living in whatever social media and cyber security. We get calls from. I thought I'd become very popular. CBI is calling me, right? So a lot of that prank calls comes, and people threaten you and things like that, right? And things like that. So the systems that are made, again, taking that from the Taleb's book, is that the security systems that we have in our companies, okay, those are well protected. The reason is basically because we actually always work to look for the vulnerabilities in the system. Okay, and I felt that was an excellent thing to look at from that point of view, that when you have the cyber security system, so when there is an attacker, okay, it only boomerangs. So which means that if you become anti-fragile, again this is written by him in the book somewhere, say that if you are an anti-fragile person, okay, if that person is trying to hurt you, okay, you will get more, that person will get hurt more than you. That's exactly given an example of the cyber security systems where it is vulnerable. We try to look at from that point of view. Yeah.
Your thoughts on something that really blew your mind on the book?
Okay, actually, are we going to go for another round, or?
Then we have some questions.
So after this, you're going to go for the fine. So I have a kind of a different take on this author, which I wanted to share. So there is a thesis which is being done on philosophies and the kind of books or the literature what has been created in the past, where we have not seen them before, but we have only got the scripts. So what they relate to the people, what they find people creating content versus what they have created content earlier, they call it as an intellectual humility. Okay, it is a part of a philosophy which it's a subject, it's a in philosophy on talking about intellectual humility. So I always like that part, and who I could directly connect when you say intellectual humility is when you say it is Trivalluvar for me. So the 1,330 verses has summarized, I would say, most of the situation humans could face, or where there needs to be a bit of a guidance. So whatever philosophies and theses Taleb has portrayed with a lot of authority and a lot of abusing he has done in the book, I mean, which I would definitely not agree to it. I mean, though he has got these randomness and trying to connect the dots and creating a new thought process of being anti-fragile, which is actually, we have heard this many times. I mean, we have been told about how you have to overcome the difficulties and try to get over the difficulties, being told by our parents, by friends, by teachers, by gurus and everybody. I mean, it's not a new concept what he has written. And but he has put it in such a nice way in terms of the wordings. I mean, the kind of literature what he has used is what actually entices you, and the kind of references where he has brought into this book in terms of connecting the kind of vision what he has created, something which we have not seen. I mean, talking about the pre-world wars, or even the philosophies from Greek philosophies, and what he has brought in into this book, which is, there is, I wish, I mean, the lot of intellect what he has had has come with little bit of humility, and that's where I prefer authors or intellects who presents their content with a lot of humility. And I still date, I mean, for me, anything and everything, I just go find whether there is a verse in Tirukkural, whether I could connect somewhere there is a reference of Tirukkural in the problem what we face. So in most of the scenarios it has worked out, and maybe there are some hidden references of Tirukkural also, I mean, which even I was trying to take a Kural for fragile. I mean, it is little complicated because it has got an inner meaning. I mean, I don't want to get into too much of Tamil, but the point what he has quoted in being a fragile is, he takes an example of a mud in a river, and how it actually transcends into multiple places and gets settled down in a place, and still it can move. And though it might be looking so fragile in that way, but it is the one which is creating the soil for the water or people to survive. So that kind of intense content which could be said in couple of lines. Maybe this author has taken 600 pages and with a lot of maybe he's a character. I mean, a lot of people do not come across as a humble person, but they are very good with their subject. They are high intellects, and but what I would have got inspired with this person. I mean, this is the first book I am reading of Taleb because of you, but I really appreciate, because that one thing which has got into me is this, the thought process of how in every situation you can be fragile, you think you are robust, how you can be anti-fragile. So this is something which you can always introspect. I mean, that so many references what he has brought into this book across these 600 pages of book, and 200 odd references what he has also mentioned, is something, this thought process is what I would suggest people to take this, because at every moment in work or life, you could be fragile. You have to assess whether you are fragile, and even if you think you have assessed everything, there is still room. That is a kind of a conscious which you have to keep in mind and approach something where you will be anti-fragile, and that is something which you can move forward with this book. I mean, that's what I would conclude my statements on.
Just add one to what Ramesh said. I like that mud thing. You know, I always used to be amazed with the IAS system in India, Indian Administrative Services. At one point in time, for 15-20 years, I used to work with them very, very closely, and the post was so fragile. I used to think that this is a person who is going to give the job, I mean, give me the order, and I used to work, and next day doing a presentation or a purchase order, the person is gone and somebody else come, right? The position is so fragile, but the system so beautifully works. And yeah, that also I think in some way in the book, Taleb has mentioned about how the Swiss government is governed. Primarily, it's not top-down approach. It's basically bottom-up approach. At the village level, they will decide who will live in that country and things like that. So that's how they are managing that immigrations. Yeah, thank you.
Ramesh, if you can, a bunch of questions, if you can kind of look through quickly and summarize them and give a kind of, we're running short of time. So 2 answers for all. Take your time. I'm going to read a couple of questions and give you time for you as well to go through. So I have 3 questions. How do you identify and leverage hidden opportunities that arise from chaos and disorder? Suresh from Pondicherry, and I'm going to read the other questions and give a kind of a overarching, how has the concept of anti-fragility influenced your personal approach to challenges and risks in life? Any live example of its impact from Gautam of Bangalore? To tell you the truth, 2 months ago, I hadn't heard the term anti-fragility. So it's a 2-month-old term, so I can't say all my life I've been anti-fragile. That would be a lie. Yeah. So having said that, I think we are able to, after reading the book, able to recollect that there were instances where we were, anti-fragile, and there were instances where we were fragile. Like Ramesh mentioned, that this book gives you a perspective now to say, in every situation that unfolds from this moment on, I can choose to be any of the 3. I can choose to play the victim and said, oh my God, why did this happen to me? Right? Or I can be nonchalant. I don't care, good or bad, I really don't care. And the third is, how do I benefit from this opportunity? And I think for me, the greatest takeaway is to get that knowledge that every situation can be a hidden opportunity. And if you have that mentality of anti-fragility, then you will be able to succeed in all what you do. Over to you.
So I've got 4 questions. I'm combining 3 and I'm keeping 1 separate. So first I will answer the question. I'm combining question asked by Kritik from Atur and Praveen Kumar from Ambattur and Katrina from Tambram. Okay, so it all combines. One thing is how we have adapted to the significant change or disorder, which is pretty much COVID related, and one was again the pandemic. They have said, how have you handled this pandemic? And what is another thing is a supply chain risk to ensure uninterrupted service and beverage is competitive advantage. How do you ensure some quality and taste at all location? So it's all connected in terms of the unforeseen situations. I mean, COVID, or might as well. There was a fire accident recently. So even that, these are situations which we are always prepared for. I mean, COVID definitely is an exception, but the moment we came to know that we started collecting information from the other parts of the globe, which was China was little ahead in terms of experiencing COVID. So we had connects in China, and then we collected information as to what is the next behavior they have started showing. So we knew about the lockdown much before. We knew about food services will resume like this through a lockdown, where there will be windows for people to come out and operate. So we actually went ahead and researched and also inquired about the next set of things which is going to happen across the globe, or people if they have experience. That's the kind of effort we have taken to face the COVID, because ours is a brick and mortar model where we have to face customers. The ones when people are out only we face business, but we made this collection of information and we planned how this will move and how long our gestation period is going to be after this. But everybody was saying this is going to prevail for a long time, but we were very confident this cannot run for this, because as I am a chartered accountant basically, so I will always look into the economic cycle. I mean, in terms of what churns, I mean, this is again goes into the Parkadal, how it has got churned to get the amritam out. I mean, that there needs to be a churning activity for something to come out. I mean, otherwise the Devers and the other guys is going to fight at each other. I mean, there needs to something come out so that they get distracted. I mean, to operate. I mean, that's how we also expected things would come into normalcy over a period of time. And we had some gestation periods. We faced a lot of working capital crunch, which we actually easily crossed through with the help of the banks. And in terms of the employees who need to be given their due care, and we had paid them off during the COVID. Certain employees went back home, so we got them the ticket. So they said, we are going to take a break, so we just go. So we just gave them with the groceries for a month. We just sent them back to their home, and they said, whenever you call us, we're going to come. So they were, the kind of care mutually was there was extraordinary. I mean, we cared and they cared. And when everything got back to normal, everything was like hunky-dory, and we just got back to the work. So when you ask me how we managed it, it is a combination of getting to know what is going to come ahead, right? Either in terms of your internal sensory perceptions or in terms of your intellectual connects, where you get information from the other parts of the globe and see how this is going to shape up. And of course, with the right kind of people, where the organization is always survives with the right kind of the people, and the kind of culture as well as the in terms of the connect what you have with the promoters as well as the other between the employees, that actually took us, and we are now much better than what we were during COVID. So I hope I have answered the question of how did we cross through the pandemic. And one more question is on how do we process the customer feedback, which is definitely actually 2 to 3 hours of my time goes into that on everyday basis, because now with the amount of Gen AI what we have deployed, I am collecting wherever there is an internet comment. I mean, whenever there is a comment which get placed online in the World Wide Web about Adyar and the Bhavan, it will come into my dashboard. So we actually collect them and we sort it out between multiple buckets, and we try to respond to them first by acknowledging, stating that yes, we got you, and something could be nasty, something could be just a exaggerated concern. So we don't kind of hesitate to respond, but we first acknowledge them. So we send out a response stating yes, it is being received, it is being looked into, we will come back. And sometimes where we know the reason, we ensure that that reason itself is responded to those customer feedbacks. And there are callbacks there. We ask the customer to come. We ask the customer to go back to the outlet to give a better experience if they have not been treated the way. Because we have about people speaking 7 languages working in the same environment. Like there is Tamil, Kannada, Telugu, Hindi, Bihari, Oriya, and I would say, yeah, these are very much, and there are a couple of more which were a few. So these many people trying to address one Tamilian. Okay, so you tend to, his body language cannot be the same what you have lived. So he might be stern, which you would look as if like he's not behaving properly, but that is his way of humbleness. So say there is a lot of cross-cultural misunderstandings happens here with the customer feedback, which we take it with a pinch of salt and try to give them back with few 2 cents of our mind and say that okay, this is what it is, but we are definitely, our intention is not to hurt anybody, right? The way we cannot, I mean, we are not here to hurt anyone, or we are not to give a bad food. Our intention is always to give the best food and the best service. But that has to transcend across 13,000 or 12,800 people to be precise what we have currently. So we keep conveying that message through our internal connects or through internal messaging or the daily dash connects what they have with the managers. So we keep giving them the importance of customer getting treated or given the proper service. And these online service feedbacks also gives us a good hang of things, what is happening when even I don't have to be there. And now we have gone ahead with getting into a video analytics. We are now buying some couple of GPUs and going to install it and then run video analytics and find out whether if the customer is grumpy there. And we have written codes to identify whether he is showing any dissent. So those kind of technology which we are going to deploy, because ours is a large scale retail. So we have to use the best of the technologies available to ensure the customers are treated properly. So we will definitely take this every seriously. And when you say what we are going to do to improve is what the video analytics, apart from the employees, I have about 6,000 cameras, and that those 6,000 cameras are going to become customer-friendly cameras where it will spot whether they have been served properly. So that's somehow what we are trying to do good for the customer.
Okay. I've got 3 questions. Last 3 minutes? 3 questions, 1 minute each. Okay. I'll take one by one. So, with cybersecurity being a key focus area, how does Indium ensure systems grow stronger when exposed to new and evolving threats? As I mentioned, right, cybersecurity is something which is a good example of anti-fragility, right? Because we always ensure that we always test it for the vulnerabilities, unlike any other system. And the hackers keep hacking the system, try to hack the system, and we try to make it as strong as it can get to, right? But today, because of AI, we say that a lot of AI has come because the threat intelligence has come. But again, the same thing that goes to the hackers. They also use AI, and we all get this WhatsApp messages. The CEO or CFO is traveling, can you please, the CEO himself signing saying that I am traveling in distress, can you please transfer? And people transfer that. Have you come across that, right? Today, it will go to the next level where they have used AI to use your CEO and CFO's voice, real voice, and then they're giving a voice message in your WhatsApp. So the thing is that vulnerability is always around. The way we look at it is that we do, look at our systems, and there are a lot of threat intelligence that we get. And people traveling, for example, 3-4 years back, our logs were like attacking on our firewalls and things like that were in thousands. And when we go drill down and things like that, we find that it is coming from few geographies like Russia, China, some of the Middle East countries and things like that. And then we started blocking those geographies from people. So when people have to travel to a particular location, they have to get pre-approval, and only then the system will work and things like that. So it is basically a catch-up game all the time. But I think that is something which is important. We also do something called as tabletop exercise, primarily to see that if an incident happens, cybersecurity incident happen, a ransomware attack happens. Ransomware attack happens quite a lot, right? And how do you actually respond to that? And those are the things. I don't want to dwell into the detail, but just leaving with that idea. Second is, how does Indium use AI and digital engineering to make clients' businesses anti-fragile in the face of rapid technological evolution? After reading this book, the first thing I need to go back and take away is to ensure that Indium itself is anti-fragile first, right? I mean, to plan and work for that. And then my next would be to ensure that my clients, I address the clients and see that how their businesses become anti-fragile. So that is a good question, because if my clients are anti-fragile, probably it's going to help me as well. And the third one is what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs or professionals on becoming anti-fragile in their careers? One thing what happens, human, is that we always, as human, we always plan that, hey, what if this happens, right? I think that is something with the fear of things. I think don't plan for any of the fear of things that is happening. Either your businesses or you're building your career or working somewhere. Hey, what is going to happen to me tomorrow? If you work in that, what happens is that by just looking at that itself, the thought process itself is, according to me, a fragile thought process. So remove that thought process itself and look for what is that overall you want to achieve in your career, and overall what is the business goals that you have. You are running a company, and then work towards that. And those companies are only being successful and professionals are successful because 2008, as Babu mentioned, good to great. I think people have read that book, and I think 70% of the book companies that is listed in good to great book don't exist today, right? One of the best book. They don't exist. Probably they have to exist for 50 years to run, right? And things like that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. I think we've completely run out of time. I wish we could have more questions. There are lots of, actually these are all online questions. We didn't ask for audience sitting here. My apologies, but hopefully you have something to take away from this evening of discussion. New term, anti-fragile, and how we in our lives are going to be anti-fragile is something that can be a good takeaway for all of us. With that, I leave the floor back to Captain.
Thank you, Babu. Thank you, Ramesh, Narayanan, Ramesh, Krishnamurthy. So, as I said, many Ramesh, Krishnamurthy and Babus today. And I think thanks Babu for introducing to another interesting subject, because I correlate fragility means fragile. When you do a paratrooping, when you have to go the first jump, you're really scared. When you stand in front of the door, that ustad gives you one kick at the back, you get out afterwards, everything goes up. So many times it happened in your life, somebody to give a kick, then you come out very beautifully. Ladies and gentlemen, maybe a big round of applause to gentlemen sharing great insights on fragility. I am quite sure each one of you become very wiser. May I request, please step forward, do the honor of presenting memento to our. May I request to please come forward and do the honor of accepting our memento, and we are going to give more book to read only. Yeah. It's all book.